Good evening, welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris and Mark back on a Monday night. Yes, it's Monday night. I'm still annoyed from Saturday. We're about to get right into this in a minute. It's what's going on. What's going on with you, Mark? I'll tell you what's going on with me in a minute. I'm still fizzing. But what's going on with you, mate? Half-term week. You keeping busy?
Yeah, well, I started the weekend with a migraine that's lasted for a couple of days. I'm over that now. I think most of it was due to football. If anybody's watched the Everton Palace game tonight, they'll have one after watching it because it is just the dullest thing on the planet.
Well, I have a migraine from Saturday, and one was playing left back, the other one was playing right wing, apparently. So we're about to get stuck into that, I'm pretty sure. But as we always say before we get stuck in, if you're new to the channel, checking us out for the first time, hello, good evening. Please click that button. We'd love you to come and join us. We've just gone over 6,600 subs. So thank you so much, you wonderful people. We are closing in on that 7K. I've got a great prize for the 7K giveaway. So keep smashing that button, recommending us to family and friends. Get us there, and you can enter into the prize for an absolute belter of a draw. We are live tonight, as always. Look, Mark's just changed the button in the corner there. He loves clicking his little buttons. He loves changing the backgrounds, doesn't Mark? That's why he was 2 minutes late, Kev, in the comments. I saw you. But no, we're all ready to go. We are ready to rock, Kev. We'll make up for them 2 minutes. But we are live tonight, as always. Bang a comment, and loads of you are already in the comments, and I'm sure we've got plenty to talk about, and we're going to get stuck right in. Roger's in the house. Good to see you, Roger. Ian is there. Kev is there as well. And he's already sick of Eddie and sick of Dan. So that is a great way to kick us off with Kev. This one is going to be therapeutic for you, I'm sure, Bonnie lad. But let's get stuck right in. So the first category, Mark, really is not good enough. Now, anyone who's watching the channel noticed that I wasn't here on Saturday post-match. Mark was here. She had a bit more of a calmer...
Subtle change there.
Calmer, relaxed post-match analysis. I was away. I was actually in the town. I had other plans. I was going to see a comedian with my old man for an early birthday present, which was funny, nearly as funny as the defendant from Newcastle United. I did say to my dad on the way in, because I did watch the second half as we pulled up and had a pint before the gig. What's going to be funnier, this comedian or the defence? And it was a surefire, the Newcastle United defence. But just before I get you in here, Mark, the title is not good enough. And quite frankly, for me, it wasn't good enough at all. We've been on for a couple of minutes now, so I'm comfortable enough to swear it was shite, is what it was. It was absolutely shite. I watched that team lineup. I looked at that team lineup, and you're talking about injuries, and Callum Wilson's injured again, which isn't surprising. It's like I said before, it become more of a popular sentence. And do you want fries with that? Because he's injured all the time. Isak's knackered again, so there's no surprise there as well. But with that team that went out, that team on paper should have been able to beat Bournemouth at home in front of 52,000 mad Geordies. I wouldn't say easily, but they should have been able to win that game. And I'm looking at the stats. I know we're going to pick this out in a minute, but we had loads of the ball. Overall, the whole game, we had 63% possession, 17 shots, 5 of them on target, 10 of them off target. Watch out for your cars if you're parked near the ground, by the way. Compared to Bournemouth, had 12 shots, 7 on target, and only 4 off target. We were shocking. We were terrible. Attacking-wise, there was nothing there. All of this, Anthony Gordon's a striker. He's not a striker whatsoever. Watch that game if you think he's a striker, and then come back and tell me he's a striker, because he's fucking not a striker. He's a very talented left winger who can weave in and out of different positions. But if you watch that game, and Mark said it so brilliantly in the post-match, he was creating space that nobody filled. Nobody filled, right? And we're going to get into these individual players in a minute. But when one of his teammates is so fucking clueless, he's like a dog chasing a tennis ball down the beach, I'm not surprised that he can't fill in that space that Anthony Gordon is leaving. I'm not going to go hard on Harvey Barnes. He's still trying to find his fitness. Good player, but nowhere near Matt Sharp yet. Can't be too harsh on him. But the team in total was dreadful. Shaky defensively, absent in midfield for a lot of it, with exception of Miley, which we'll get onto in a minute. But you are not going to finish in European football. I'm going to get this right out now, Mark. I will take a breath and let you talk in a minute, I promise. We will not finish in a European spot if we can't beat Forest, Luton, and Bournemouth at St James's Park. And that is factual, mate. Over to you, and I will breathe.
I think you're bang on. I think you can't be harsh with Barnes. I thought Barnes played all right. To be fair, I think his movement was good. He was being asked to play in a position, particularly in the second half, that isn't his at all. Gordon, we know, isn't a centre forward. If anything, he's going to play that withdrawn sort of striker role that he's played for England at most. But he wants to be wide. He wants to be running at players and create space. The trouble is, when he was doing that, when he was pulling left, when he was pulling right, there was nobody in the middle that was really gambling on getting into those sort of areas. And that was so. I think that the word in the comments was ineffective is absolutely the right one. I thought Bruno was kind of industrious best. I thought he was, of everybody, he was trying the most to make something happen. I thought Miley was excellent. Defensively, that midfield still is a huge concern, despite the changes, despite the fact that Miley's dropped into that middle gap. If you look at the heat maps and the average position in Sean Longstaff's deeper, but he's not disciplined enough to play that defensive midfield role. It just was poor. And the defence as a whole, I think, Trippier didn't have a bad game, but Dan Burn was awful for spells of it. I thought he was very poor. I thought Botman had one of his poorest games for the club. And Miggy, I thought, was just a complete waste of space on Saturday. I really do. I know he has his backers. I know people love it that he tries so hard, but he was just awful. And goes to show what a lot of people sort of said about him is just that he doesn't have any footballing IQ. He doesn't know what to do with the ball an awful lot of time. He will train for certain things. He will do certain things. He knows that Trippier is going to overlap, but put him in another position, and he suddenly it's like a rabbit in headlights. It really is. And there are a couple of examples of sort of just him and him running with his head down constantly. What is he, 29, 30 now? For that age of player to be running around with his head glued to his feet is shocking. Absolutely shocking.
Well, we'll get into that in a bit more detail in a minute. It's schoolboy stuff. It really is. It's the kind of stuff you're taught when you're in primary school. Get your head up, look around for players. If in doubt, put it out. All these basic football things you get taught as a kid. This guy doesn't seem to understand. He doesn't seem to get it whatsoever. And I really don't understand how a professional footballer of 29 and 30 is having that going through his brain. So for some reason, my computer was sticking there, as you could tell by the slight panic on my face. But we will get into the manager in a minute, JT Toon. That was a great comment from you. I was going to pull it up, but Mark was on a roll. We'll get stuck into Eddie Howe in a minute because I'm frustrated with Eddie Howe as well, right? And unlike other channels, we're not going to sit here and blow smoke up the manager's arse when we feel like he is causing some troubles for himself. I'm not saying Eddie out, neither is Mark, but we are going to have our say about this in a minute because this needs to be said. And more people need to say it, and the journalists need to pull him on it as well because it's getting fucking ridiculous from the manager. It really, really is. But going back to the game in itself, Mark, the first half, I thought we had enough of the ball. Like you said, we'll get into Louis in a minute because I thought out of everybody, he stood out by a country mile. Weirdly enough, not according to SofaScore, who gave Miggy Almiron a higher score. Work that out. I mean, that must have been a Paraguayan that was doing the sums that day, I think. But Louis was great. But like you say about Sean as well, there's moments in games with Sean. It's not consistently throughout the game. He hits a great pass to Miggy, which I think we've got a slide for in a minute, which Miggy then totally fluffs. But Sean hits a beautiful pass, cuts right through the middle of the Bournemouth team. And he's capable of that sometimes. He makes a great run from a ball from Bruno, but he almost takes his eye off the ball. He's not got the pace to catch it, run and square onto it. If he ran at an angle and just nicked it out to the side, he probably would have been able to find some space, and then somebody could have ran in the middle of the box. But it's almost like his brain wasn't quite engaged in it. So Sean has a lot of attributes in the game, but I think the problem is he's stuck almost between a rock and a hard place. And quite frankly, and I love the lad, he's an honest player, right? But he's not Bruno. He's not good enough to, in the middle of a game, go from being a 6 to an 8. Sean has to pick a spot in midfield and decide which midfielder that he is because he can't drift between the two. He's not got the discipline, as you say, Mark, to stay at the back and sit. Weirdly enough, in that first half, Louis might look like he did have that discipline, didn't he? He was sitting right far back. He was making some tackles. If you look at, Louis' stats individually, I know I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit here, but I mean, the boy made 6 tackles in the game. Do you know what I mean? So he was winning the ball, whereas Sean was just kind of up and down and left and right and all over the place, but without running with any real purpose. And we're going to get into players coming back in a minute, but it was so frustrating, just I suppose, just to kind of close on the game itself before we get into all these other bits we're going to talk about. But the game itself, Bournemouth aren't a great side, right? We made them look better. They came to St James's Park. They played right through us. Solanke was dangerous. He gave Botman and Cher a terrible time. To be fair, Dubravka got a lot of shit for the slip for the goal, which I know you were, obviously as goalkeepers union, Mark, but quite rightly you were very kind to him on. I think Botman hits the back pass to him a little bit crisp. I think, obviously his footing just goes under him. The ground was wet, it was raining a little bit and all that stuff. And he goes down, and that kind of thing can happen. But if Dubravka doesn't make those 2 saves from Solanke in the first half, Mark, that are great saves, we lose this game comfortably, don't we? Never mind draw it.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 saves. There's the one later on from Lewis Cook as well that he pushes away in, and I think there's another one as well. So, I mean, yeah, it could, when you're looking at it, you're looking at potentially 4 or 5, and you go, what on earth is going on when Bournemouth, and look, they've played well. They've done really, really well over the last few months, but they shouldn't be coming to St James's Park and potentially scoring 4 or 5 goals. It's just not. It just shouldn't be happening. And there's an awful lot going wrong tactically. And I know we'll come to Eddie, but I just think there's an awful lot wrong there where, and I've said it at the weekend, I said it last week, Newcastle aren't setting up for the team ahead of them. They're setting up for themselves. They're setting up for what's gone on in the past almost. And even with the injury nightmare that's gone on, there's still options to be able to change things, changing personnel, even with the limited ones that you've got. There is still options there. I'm screaming out from the bench and just not being used at the moment. It just beggars belief.
I mean, we'll talk about that now before we talk about the other players, and in particular, and point out their kind of deficiencies that seemingly the manager is either incapable of seeing or chooses not to see. But if you're Lewis Hall and you're on that bench and you've played 12 times for Chelsea and you played Champions League football and all that stuff, and you see fucking Joe Lewis come on ahead of you and Matt Ritchie come on ahead of you, he had to put his dentures in and he put his fucking, what's that that joint cream on that you put on? What was it called? I can't remember what it's called, Ultravol or something. I don't know what
Voltarol.
That's a Voltarol. That's I think he said Voldemort there. But I know Richie scores the goal, and fair play to Richie, come on with a little bit of gusto. He added something to the game. I'll give him that. But when you're Lewis Hall and you're looking at a kid who's been on loan at Crewe coming on ahead of you, surely he's got to be saying to his agent, "What the fuck am I doing here, man? Like, I'm not getting any game time at all." I read a piece from I think it was Mark Douglas, and it's nice to see some press and some journalism on the Lewis Hall scenario. And the story is that we will be a Newcastle player permanently next season, that they think really highly of him behind the scenes, but Eddie's holding him back because there's certain parts of his game that he's not sure of and all that stuff, right? He can fucking run for one, right? So that puts him ahead of one left back we've got, that's for sure, right? He's got a one of a left peg on him. We know he can get a goal. We saw that against Manchester United. So what the fuck is the problem with this kid sitting on the bench? It's really starting to do my nutting. I know some journalists have asked the question, right? But somebody needs to point blank put Eddie Howe on the spot and say, what's going on here with this lad? And if I was that lad's agent, I'd be kicking his fucking door through, asking what's going on. I really would.
I think Kevin's putting that in the chat there. I think Hall was an Ashworth play. I think that's kind of the overriding theory with this is the fact that this fallout between Eddie and Dan Ashworth, and he usually doesn't want to use them because they're his choices, his players. It's ludicrous when you think he hasn't done badly when he's played. He'd certainly give you a lot more movement, a lot more mobility in that position. But I just can't get my head around the fact that you sit there week after week watching Tino Livramento sit on the bench when he's played so well when he's played in that position.
Yeah.
And he's still not getting an opportunity.
I agree with Keith there. I think the way he's been getting treated is appalling. I really do. I think it's shocking. I do.
And the problem is at this point, he then regresses. He doesn't improve. He's not getting the maybe the support around him and stuff. So I just can't get my head around that one whatsoever. And this reluctance to drop Dan Burn, as lovely a man as he might be, he is costing the team now week after week. He's not he's not a ridiculously bad footballer. He's a limited footballer. And in situations that work for him, he works really well. Look, when he's got the support around him, as of last season, it worked brilliantly because he had Joe Linton and Willock ahead of him, because he got a settled defence and a goalkeeper behind that could really come out and play that sweeper role that, he's not great with his feet, but he's quick off his line. He reads the game really, really well. Liverpool game aside, we'll leave that one out. But that goes into the Dubravka thing as well, because that slip can happen to anybody. And if he doesn't slip, nobody's talking about the Botman pass. So I'll give him a pass for that. But the whole thing with Dan Burn at left back and the lack of just anybody coming in for him, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to keep going up against teams where they've got pacey right wingers and not giving him any support. You're hanging Dan Burn out to dry. And it's not Dan Burn's fault. It's really not. It falls down to the manager because he's not helping him out. He's not putting the team in a position to help his left back out. He's being isolated week after week. And we saw this week it was a slightly different way of doing it. And he tried his best to kind of combat it, but it backfired.
But just hold that thought for 1 second.
Yeah.
We'll step into the next section. Just to answer Abacus' question, I actually think he caught him in bed fucking Mrs. Howe, Abacus. That's the only reason why I think he's treating the kid the way he is, to be honest with you, because it's absolutely appalling, mate. It's appalling. But yeah, Mark's getting more revved up than I am here at the minute, so we're moving on to the manager here. So stubborn Eddie. It kind of just plays off the back of what you were saying there, Mark, as well. Now, yes, Newcastle have had injuries this season, right? Everyone knows that. And we've had ridiculous injuries. With another injury at the weekend, Fabian Schär looks like he's done something to his arm. I reckon he could be out for weeks. So he'll be out again as well. And so these weird injuries that you have, just, it's almost like there's a witch doctor somewhere that's just laughing, bending players' legs somewhere or whatever.
That was such an odd one as well, because I hadn't even realised that he'd gone down.
Right at the end of the game. Right at the end of the game.
As soon as I heard the final whistle, I switched off and I got ready to do the post-match. So I didn't even see it. I went back and watched the game again today and looked and went, he took one in the arm. It was the last kick of the game, takes one in the arm, and all of a sudden he's sitting on the floor and he looked in agony. So God knows what that one's gonna mean.
Fuck knows. But I think it's going to be another bad one. But going back to yes, the injuries have been there and everything else. I've said it. Mark said it. Other YouTubers and podcasts have all said it, right? Yes, we've had injuries and everything else, but there's no excuse other than the stubbornness of the manager for why he's continuously playing players that are off form, players that are struggling, players that are a year older, players that have come back from injuries and look a yard slower if they even had a fucking yard in the first place, after having injuries. And he's causing more problems for himself. I've seen a comment there, I think it was from Kev, that said, why wouldn't the media put any pressure on him? Because he's a media darling, Eddie Howe, right? And you know what? He's earned that right. He took on the impossible challenge. Everybody signed our death warrant, and he did the impossible. He didn't just save us from relegation. He qualified us for the Champions League, and he deserves every ounce of credit that's in that piggy bank, right? But credit erodes very, very fast, especially when you keep doing the same shit week in, week out. It's the definition of madness, isn't it? Doing the same thing over and over again and getting it wrong. And there's two players in particular. If Eddie Howe wants to build a hill to die on, that would be called Dan Burn Hill and Miggy fucking Hill. That's what he's going to die on, because he's picking these two players. As Mark just said, Burn is limited, right? Dan Burn, take away the Dan Burn, the bloke, right? Lovely bloke, black and white through and through. He's had the career. He's gone on the hard way, Mark, hasn't he? He was pushing trolleys at Asda when the same age as Louis Miley. He's gone right through the leagues. He's worked his way back in Newcastle. He's a fantastic role model for kids who get released when they're younger and all that. He's a fantastic bloke, and he bleeds black and white, right? But he's getting older. That back injury's definitely set him back a bit, whether he's rushed himself back or whatever. He looks a yard off what he used to look like before. As you rightly said, Mark, we're missing key personnel in Joe Linton and Joe Willock that covered a lot of his deficiencies last season. Go back and watch the games last season. Look how many times Joe Linton and Joe Willock are next to him, and he's not getting beat by pace, by fast players in the league. But this ain't happening this season, so he's getting done time and time again. But the art of good management is noticing your player is in a position where he is going to struggle. As you rightly said, Mark, don't put the guy through that. Whether he's 21 or 31, don't put him through it. Make a big decision. Grow a pair of nuts, Eddie, and take him out of the team and put Tino Livramento in, because we'll all see what happens when you put Tino in. And listen, Tino will make some mistakes. Tino's a young lad, right? But Tino has the pace to combat against the very thing that Dan Burns' kryptonite right now, which is pace. But he's not doing it. And one of the examples I think you had there, Mark, as well, just from the goal at the weekend, the second goal. We'll get into fucking Miggy in a minute. Jesus H. Christ. If anyone's got a heart condition, maybe go and pop some fucking calms or something, have a Camel tea, when we're getting to Miggy Almiron. But just on the Dan Burn, Mark, pull up the second goal and just point out exactly what we're talking about here and why Eddie Howe, even if he starts him, he has to take him off at half time. Cliver did this to him earlier on, didn't he? The warning signs were there again, and he still didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, so the goal, I mean, the last few weeks, it's all been about pace, getting past him, getting run through him from high, from Burns' sort of high position on the pitch. And this time it was totally different, because Dan Burn drops deeper and he allows Semenyo to pick the ball up sort of halfway through in the half. And you can sort of see the line of where Burn and it is sort of to shepherd Semenyo. And I looked at that initially and you go, yeah, that almost looks decent position. Keep him within sort of a few yards where he's not going to burn past you, but you can shepherd him wide, keep him away from the goal. And that initial setup, you go, okay, it gives the other defenders time to get to. You can then take a step across and push him wider. The problem is Dan Burn then completely allows Semenyo to come inside. He doesn't cut across him, but he must move at least 2-3 yards in field as he's running towards the goal, and he still gets no closer. And at that point, he then only decides to close him down as he goes to shoot. Now, it's a hell of a shot, and I'm against an awful lot of comments that I've seen that Nick Pope would save that shot. I don't think many goalkeepers in the world would save that shot. He
catches the keeper. I don't think the keeper's expecting the shot as early as it comes. I think he catches
no,
him.
And he hits it so hard and he hits it so well into the corner. Then there's not many goalkeepers that will save that one. So again, I don't put that one on Dubravka at all. That's on Dan Burns defending. He just allows him to get in, to move in field further than he really should. He should have kept him on the edge of that 18-yard box. If he keeps him there, he doesn't get the shot in, and he has to look for another option that allows Botman to get back. Because if you look at it, I'll go back to the image. Botman's almost back in position. Cher's taken up a good position to kind of cut off the attacker from the other side. And at that point, you go, well, yeah, if you're another 2 yards further wide, Dan Burn, that shot can't happen. And he just gave him far too much space and far too much time to just run towards the goal to be able to shoot. And it's just, he's overcompensated for his lack of pace by dropping deep, but then he's not got tight enough. He's not shepherded him away from the goal, which is what he has to do.
I agree with that comment from Ian. He's from Blythe, he's from Belfast, he'd be out on his arse. I think that is very true. I think the Geordie nostalgia is definitely one of the biggest reasons that people wrap their arms around Dan Burn. Simon said he almost has sympathy with the Almiron situation because he has so few options on the right. I suppose you're right. Technically, got Jacob Murphy, and that's about it, really. And maybe Gordon, you can move over there. But the situation on left back is totally different. He's got not one but two options ahead of him. And Burn, I'd argue he's got three. I'd play Dummett at left back over Burn. I really would, because Dummett hasn't got a lot of pace, but Dummett seems to put himself in a really good position when he's up against people with speed. Positionally, he's very clever as Dummett. He always has been like that. He's a centre half probably more now, but he knows when to drop. He knows when to step out, as you said there in that slide, Mark. Burns in no man's land doesn't know where to go. And you made a comment about Botman having probably his worst game in a black and white shirt, and I agree with you. It's no coincidence that he's probably rattled at how bad Burns playing. So I think Botman's almost got one eye on Burns' spot and one eye on his own, trying to do it himself. Whereas if you put a better left-back option in there, someone who can hold the position or has got the pace to get himself out of trouble, and out of the two players, right? I know we've been talking about Lewis Hall, right? But out of the two players, Tino was definitely the one who goes in because Tino's better defensively. What I love about Hall in terms of his speed and his ability to attack, defensively still looks a bit naive. I remember the Dortmund game, when the ball bounced, he looked the wrong way. He lost his man. That's why he got hooked. But isn't it interesting, though, going back to the stubbornness of the manager? It's okay from a hook these 17, 18-year-old kids. Why are you hooking these 30-odd-year-old players? And Trippier as well, when he was having a fucking mare. Grow a pair of balls, Eddie. You don't want to upset your clique right? Look at the fucking results. We're not winning games, right? Yes, we're still sitting in 7th, but I think you rightly so said this, Mark, in the post-match as well. We're sitting in 7th. It's masking our position, in my opinion, because other teams around us are having shit results and weird kind of out of the blue results. 1 minute they're good, 1 minute that they're losing games they shouldn't do. And it's almost like a mirror of last season. The reason we finished in the Champions League spots last season, yes, we did well, right? We surprised everybody. We didn't have Champions League to worry about and all that stuff. We went out the cup early. So we only really had the league to worry about. But one of the biggest reasons we finished 4th last season is because Liverpool had a fucking mare. Chelsea had a mare. Spurs had a mare. You know, if them 3 teams had been on it, we would have been a top 4 mark last season, you know, even with the way we were playing.
No, probably not. As Joe Linton points out, it's 8th, not 7th.
Sorry, Joe. We dropped Joe.
Always
rely on you to get the tackle right, Joe.
And to be fair as well, there's only then, 2 points between Newcastle in 8th and Wolves in 11th. So, you know, good result for 3 of the teams below, and all of a sudden you're sitting in the bottom half of the league, and it looks much, much worse.
I think we will. I think we'll drop into the bottom half. Just quickly, Roger's saying, BDB should move to half time. So I had to pull this comment up. Kev saying, Cliver, Patrick's son was playing against us. He was, and he rang a lot more than his fucking fella did because he was more interested in going to the big market than he was fucking St James's Park when he was here. Was all Paddy K, mate. So sorry about God. I'll get you back.
No. To be honest, I've been interested to see how Cliver's got on because he came with all this promise and it didn't really happen. And he's starting to see flashes of it. So it is interesting to see how he does go. But, you know, that's for a different podcast. I lost my thought train of thought.
Almiron. Miggy Almiron. That's where we're going next. Let's get into Miggy first. So just before we get into these slides, right? Now, Christ almighty. Miggy Almiron is one of them guys that the only time people talk about Miggy, he runs for the team and he smiles a lot, basically, right? But if you want that, go buy fucking Hyena and put that on the right wing because that'll probably do about as good of a job as this plug is in a minute. Mark's about to give you some real tactical analysis on how fucking brain dead this player is, right? Honestly, if I had Dorothy's number, I'd ask her to take this prick to Oz and go get a brain from the wizard because he doesn't have one. And he hasn't had one ever since he's been here. I was watching the lads at the Toon Review. Great stuff the Toon Review guys do. I was on there with them a few weeks back there. And I think Paul said it, that Almiron's got, I think, less assists in his whole fucking career than Trippier has in this one season. And that's a right winger. Like, how many more excuses are people going to make for this player? Yes, he runs around everywhere, but he's not fucking good enough. We should have signed somebody a level up from him in the summer. He should have been a squad player. He should have been somebody you bring off the bench. You know, when you've got injured strikers, you can play him through the middle. Just let him run around. Maybe he'll win a pen or something like that. You know, he shouldn't have been who you were pegging your hopes on, but he is. I don't know whether it's because of Darren Eales has got a semi on for him because of his time in America, or whether it's because Eddie Howe thinks all of a sudden he sprinkled the stardust on him and he's become, you know, fucking Ryan Giggs or David Beckham overnight. He hasn't. He did it with Joe Linton, Eddie, and fucking credit to you, mate, because that was unbelievable, right? But you ain't done it with this bloke. He's fucking clueless, and Mark is about to tell you exactly why he's clueless, Eddie. So grab a pen in your scrapbook and write this down, Edward, because he's about to tell you the crack.
Well, let's just go back to the comment you said before about the Trippier assist thing, and you're absolutely bang on the money because Almiron has 6 assists in the Premier League in 169 games.
Rancid
Absolutely abysmal. He has 6 assists in the other 30 games that he's played, all in cup competitions. One of those being in the Champions League, bizarrely. But 6 assists. The most assists he's ever had in a season is 2. He's done that twice. Once in 1920, and he got 2 last season as well. The previous he's got 1 this season. A couple of seasons ago, he got 0. And the first season he was in the league, he got 0. It's just an appalling record for a wide forward to have 6 assists. It's shocking, absolutely shocking. And part of the reason is he plays with his head down, and it's unbelievable the amount of chances that go begging because Almiron just cannot lift his head. There is a funny moment, and I say funny moment, but you have to go back and watch like kind of the rerun of the game if you can. If
tragically
you can find
funny
it on some of the sites. But the first one, and this comes, I can't remember which part of there's a sort of early-ish, and he sort of Almiron cuts in, and he's got the perfect opportunity, and he's had about 10 yards from this. He has this perfect opportunity as Barnes is screaming into the box to just lay a simple 2 or 3 yard pass into Barnes.
Murphy plays that ball, in my opinion.
I think every other player on the field plays that pass. But if you look at Almiron there, his head is down. He doesn't even know Harvey Barnes is there. He hasn't got a clue. If you move then on, in this same motion, he then gets to the edge of the box. Barnes has made his run and pulled the defender with him. Anthony Gordon's then on the edge of the box, completely on his own. Has Miggy seen him? No, Miggy's still looking at his feet. He's still got his head down. He still doesn't know what's going on around him. Again, at this point, all he does is he puts the ball over the bar. He had another couple of shots.
Mad. Watch that back, Gordon.
Gordon was going spare. If I was Harvey Barnes at that point, I think I'd have lynched him.
I'd have squared up to him.
This is at 1-1. Sorry, that first one, that was right at the start of the second half. And I said early on, it was the start of the second half, not the first half, obviously. This one was about, about 12, 13 minutes later. And again, the ball comes across sort of from the left-hand side. He's got acres and acres of space. He should be absolutely aware of who's around him. He's 30 yards from goal. He's got 3 players in the way of his shot at goal. And he shoots. And Trippier is burning down that right-hand side to get in the box. He's got
that's open the ball, isn't it? That's the ball.
Either an open shot or a ball into the box to a better placed player. And he shoots. And again, look at
Barnes.
Massive.
Look at Barnes' movement there. Sorry, mate, just in between the defence. So if Almiron had a fucking brain, he plays in Trippier. Barnes is inside that gap. Barnes is inside that gap for a tapping. That's what. Look at his body shape. He's already moving.
If you can. Yeah, you can see the body shape of the defender as well. If that ball is played well to Trippier, it's in front of Trippier to play first time across the edge of the 6-yard box for Harvey Barnes to be running onto, and that's the level of the lack of awareness that Almiron has. And like I say, the funny part, if you can see it, is you constantly see Mickey run like this. He's constantly running and going. He's got no awareness because his head goes up and down. It's not looking around. In the second half, I think it's the first half. Towards the end of the first half, he runs down the left-hand side, and as he runs, you can see him physically trying to strain his head to stay up, as if he's been told to keep it up, but he keeps it up like. Almost looking up into the sky, not keeping his head up and on a swivel so he knows what's around him. He's physically trying to just keep his head like that. But then when it comes to play the ball, his head just goes straight back down again. I have never seen a footballer with such lack of awareness of his own feet.
I've seen kids play better than that. They better have the pace and the ability to strike a ball and everything else. But in terms of their awareness, their head up and looking around the pitch, I've seen kids play better than that. Just this comment from Dean, there's no one else if Murphy's unfit. There's not only Miggy Dean. I would play Team Livramento right wing and Lewis Hall left back. I would do that. Bring some fucking pace into the team. That's what I would do. I got no problem with that at all. I think Miggy is so useless now that it doesn't even bear thinking about. There was a comment there from Davey as well about Byrne. He said, Dan Byrne is very imposing on corners and set pieces, both defending and attack. Hang on, Mark, I'm going to go with this because nobody else has mentioned this and all the post-match stuff I've seen. I'm sticking up for him a bit, but of course, one-on-one, he's not very clever. So if you want to have a look at how not very clever Dan Byrne really is, Davey, go back and watch the first half. There's a little bit of play on the edge of the box. I think it might be between Gordon, Miley, maybe Barnes. Bruno then bursts into the box, little 1-2, and there's a through ball in there, and you're thinking Bruno's in, albeit for the 6-foot-odd daft blithe bastard that he runs right into like the fucking 308, pulling into the Haymarket. What is he even doing there? Get out the fucking way. Yes, he's trying to attack, but Bruno is the player to get in and have a shot. Get out of his fucking way. You go back and watch other teams that get out of the attacking player's way. That could have been a goal, and he got in the way. That's how clever Byrne is in the box, mate, in my opinion. Shouldn't even be there.
I mean, I get the point from corners. He is imposing. He goes how. I have an issue in the fact that he doesn't get his head on the ball enough.
How many headers does he score?
For me, and I've said this from day one, when he doesn't seem to read the ball in the air very well at all. He goes over him or he gets underneath it so many times. But that moment where I think it was Barnes and Bruno on the edge of the box, and you see Burn make that run through the gap, and we've seen this from quite a few sort of the kind of inverted fullbacks that kind of run in. I know Destiny and Doug. Thanks, Ian. Destiny and Doug.
He's actually got a bag of crisps under the desk. You can't see. He's just dropped away there, mate. So sorry, mate.
Destiny and Doggy makes that sort of run, but he generally doesn't run into his own players. He has to be able to read what's going on in front of him, and he can see Bruno's movement. It's such an obvious 1-2 play, and he just runs, gets himself. And I mean, again, I said this about Barnes and Miggy before. I'd have lynched him. How Bruno doesn't swing at him is beyond me.
I don't want mad at him. Honestly,
just unbelievable. The other side, sort of talking about disciplined midfielders, just how disciplined is Bruno playing at the moment with him being on that yellow card. I've got to give him a huge amount of credit for that, because there's a few tasty tackles going in on Saturday, and he held himself really, really well.
He did. I mean, to be fair as well, I think you will get booked against Arsenal, because he always gets a bit raged up against Arsenal. There's Bruno. Yeah, George appreciates the 308 comment. Absolutely, that's about the only other biggest thing I've seen going from Newcastle to Blythe on a regular occasion, mate. But and funny enough, it's always fucking late as well. The 308 late, Akko. It's just like Burn.
On the I was going to say on the subject of tasty tackles, can anyone explain to me how that's not a yellow card as well, please?
Jesus, the ref, honestly,
that was Senesi on like in the 47th minute. That's a yellow card all day long. His initial contact is up around the knee. He then scissors his leg. That should have been yellow card 1. He was then booked in the 51st minute for a charge on or a block on Bruno. That should have been Senesi off the field. It was. The referee had an absolute shocker in the first half. He left his cards at home because there were 5 challenges that should have been yellow cards, and he only booked 1.
Yeah, but it's happening week in, week out. I mean, even look at the Holgate tackle. He initially gives him a yellow card. It's not until he goes to VAR, he realizes, oh my God, he's just done a fucking Mortal Kombat finishing move on the bloke. I better give him a red card. But the initial reaction is to give him a yellow, and it's just shocking. Simon's just agreeing with what we're saying there. Why isn't Howe considering playing Tino on the right wing? He's got the pace and the attacking instincts. He's starting to piss him off. Just on that point as well, Simon, actually, I'm not Eddie Howe out, right? And Mark isn't either. But, and I've said this numerous times, right? You're allowed to criticize when you think he's not getting things right. I'm starting to lose a bit of confidence in him, to be honest with you, and his in-game management. Now, he got pulled out of the shit by, his younger brother, who's, was he 40 odd or whatever, fucking Matt Rich is these days. But, yes, people are saying, oh, Newcastle have got the spirit, the fight back. And what else annoys me as well, that there's more people having a wank off than Matt Ritchie scored and he's kicked the corner flag than how shit we were at the weekend. People seem to completely forget the fact that we were stinking, we were horrendous. And had it not been for Dubravka's brilliant goalkeeper, we would have lost that game. And do you know what? We deserved to lose that game. Then Bournemouth fans would have travelled back down to South Coast going, God, they were shit today. We should have battered them. And rightly so. They absolutely deserve to say that. I've seen a few people compare us to Eddie Howe's Bournemouth, which is just running with no purpose, no defensive discipline, no midfield discipline, too many injuries, all this other stuff. It seems to be going round and round again like you had at Bournemouth. And I'm not saying I want him out, right? But remember when he first came, Mark, and all of the mainstream media were saying, will he be Newcastle's Mark Hughes? If he keeps picking players like Burn and Miggy, they keep costing us, points like they are, then he fucking will be Newcastle's Mark Hughes, and we will upgrade to a better manager who's got a pair of balls that can drop players who are off form, because it doesn't matter if you want them to be your fucking friends, Eddie. If they're not playing good enough, you need to drop them. The Arsenal game is not really want to do it, and in my opinion, I think we'll get pumped regardless. I think I wouldn't throw Isak and Willock in that, even if they said they were fit. I wouldn't even bother. I'd wait till Wolves. We'll get battered off Arsenal regardless, right? But it'd be just right Newcastle to scrape a 1-0 win, wouldn't it? With Miggy getting the fucking winner, probably no, just to piss us all off. But my point is just on the close on the manager, Mark. He's got so much credit in the bank here, but don't take the piss. This is the time where you've got to earn your paycheck as a manager, and you've got to make tough decisions. These guys can't be your mates every week, right? He's happy to hook off Louis Miley at halftime or Lewis Hall at halftime. But when is he going to start making these decisions about these guys? Arsenal for you, mate. Does Burn have to get dropped? At least Burn, if not Miggy?
Yes. On Eddie, quickly. Look, a lot was made about the fact that he went all over the world to go and look at other managers and their style of management and what he's done. He seems to have forgotten an awful lot of that. And the analogy of the Bournemouth thing is almost bang on, because Newcastle are great at times going forward. They're quite open. They're like this sort of high intensity play, but defensively completely suspect. And that was exactly Bournemouth towards the end. The Mark Hughes thing, you'll know exactly when the Mark Hughes moment kicks in, because he'll bring on one of the goalkeepers off the bench to play up front instead of centre forward.
Was that David James?
Anybody remember when he brought David James on up front for the last couple of minutes of the game? Honest to God.
And then he committed ABH on some centre half, didn't he? Or something?
Yeah,
I remember
absolutely
that.
right. It was the most bamboozling decision I've ever seen, but. Yeah, there's your moment. If we suddenly see Gillespie coming on up front for Isak with 10 minutes to go or something stupid, then we know the end is nigh, I think.
Exactly. Davy's saying, Burn against Arsenal. He likes Tino and he would play him, but he thinks Eddie will stick with Big Dan. Well, if he sticks with Big Dan and then in 5 minutes we're doing the old Simpsons stop, he's already dead when Saka's rings round him there, because there's no Joe Linton to wipe your ass this time, mate. You're on your own. So, it'd be interesting to see what happens there.
Part of me there's a sneaky suspicion in me that he'll go 5 back.
5 at the back.
And he'll drop Burn into the middle with Botman sort of and Shaw.
Lascelles probably at this rate. The Lascelles, I would say.
Of Lascelles. And partly because of that. And that's what I meant, because he's then reliant on a real part-time centre-back pairing. And I just think that might give Newcastle a little bit more defensive stature. I hate to see it. And I know Bruce got absolutely pilloried at times for doing 5 at the back, but he was playing 5 at the back against some of the weaker teams in the league. But sometimes it might just be a change just to always give him play wing backs to try and counter and push back the likes of Saka and Martinelli and keep them engaged in the game more defensively. But I don't know. I don't see him doing it. I don't see him changing that. But I think Tino's got to play against Saka's on form. And if anything,
Arsenal are on form. Arsenal scoring goals for fun, mate.
Saka's biggest trait is to cut inside, but he's got a lot more end product than Miggy has when he does it. Putting a right footer up against him,
I've got more end product than Miggy does. That's not much of a comment.
We're 170 Premier League games behind him. We've nearly got as many assists as him.
Exactly, mate.
But I think a right footer against Saka, as Saka tries to cut in, I think could work well, because it gets him on his strong foot if he does do that. So I think that's got to be the change. It really does. Whether he'll do it or not, I don't know. If Isak's fit, if he's properly fit, I'd play him, and I'd play Barnes and Gordon. But if Isak's not quite there, you don't risk him, because then you're running the risk of him being out for the rest of the season.
Yeah. If he's on the bench, great. On the bench, bring him on for 20 minutes or something like that. But I'd save him for Wolves. Just one last thing on Eddie, and we'll move on, because we're nearly done an hour here, because I think I've been ranting too much. Becca saying it's been the last few games for him with Howe now. Seems pig-headedness. Well said. It is pig-headedness. He needs to give his head a shake. It's too obvious we're failing week in, week out. I totally agree, mate. He needs to sort this out, or that credit will erode.
Hands up. Thanks, Luke. I got it wrong. Not
Stuart
Hughes.
Pearce.
I apologise, Mark Hughes. I genuinely thought it was Hughes.
Mark Hughes.
There you go. It was still a ridiculous thing to do.
Yeah, well, Bangling Dave says we're spot on. Thank you very much, Dave. We appreciate that. So moving on to the next one. I mean, there was one player who came out of this with a little bit of credit at the weekend, and it was Louis Miley. We'll go quick on Miley's magic. He dropped into that number 6 role, and he looked really good at the start of the game. It was probably one of his most confident, accomplished kind of performances for Newcastle. I felt, Mark, just looking at his stats. I mean, his total passes were only 77% out of his 74 passes. Beg your pardon, his accurate passes out of 52, he got 40 on target, 77% with one key pass. But because he was trying more, your passing stats are always going to drop a little bit because you're being a bit braver on the ball. In terms of long balls, he got 3 on target out of his 5. He was spraying them around really well. He won 9 of his 12 ground duels, 3 of his 3 aerial duels, 2 interceptions, 6 tackles, which is a brilliant performance from the young lad. He looks like he's growing in confidence every single game. I keep seeing everybody talking about Kobe Mainu for England and all that, and I love the fact that it's almost just as quick as a flash. It's just Newcastle fans just run in and go, well, Louis Miley wiped his arse with us in James's Park, and because everyone keeps talking about Mainu for England. But if Louis keeps playing like this, and another thing that's getting on my tits with this a bit as well, we'll get into the injury returns in a second, but everybody's so quick to drop Louis Miley. He's tired, he needs a rest. Willock's on his back, drop him. I'm sorry, but Louis Miley's offering more to this team right now than Sean Longstaff is, mate. If Willock is fit for me, Sean's on the bench and Louis Miley continues in midfield. What was your take on Louis at the weekend, and obviously what I've just said there?
He would get my man of the match for the weekend. I thought he was really, really good. Some of his passing was really very good. The ball that he plays first half out to the left, he sort of dissects the defence to play the ball out to Harvey Barnes. It was an exceptional pass, and it just shows his range of passing, and he's growing. And he's going to make those mistakes. He's going to. You have to allow him to do that. You've got to give him the benefit of the doubt when he's going to make those. Those small mistakes. He's not quite going to be in the right area. His touch might let him down.
As Decker says there, he's not even filled out yet. Wait till he fills out. He could be a fucking monster if he fills out, hits the gym and that, man. Jesus
he could be. There's a lot made about his lack of pace, but he does glide a little bit over the turf. His brain gets him in the positions, and there's an awful lot of footballers that have got by with very little pace, but their ability to read the game better than everybody else around him. Man of the match for me, yeah, absolutely. I think in our poll on in the community tab, he's currently 1% ahead of Bruno for the weekend with 38%. So I think that's the overriding thoughts of his performance. He was the bright light, I think, at the weekend.
I think it has been this season. Kev saying we need a nickname for him. Should we call him Cyrus? I don't know. We'll come up with some kind of nickname for him. But I think they just call him Lou, don't they? That seems to be what Sean Longstaff calls him. Or what you should call him is all yours, mate, is what you probably should call him, and then just sit down on the bench, probably. But I think for me, Sean's saying there, our reliance on the 17-year-old this season is almost tragic. But if you're good enough, you're old enough, Sean. I mean, you look back at Everton, with Wayne Rooney. I know Everton at that time were, kind of underdog side and all this sort of stuff. But when that 16-year-old exploded onto the scene, I'm not saying that Louis, what Wayne Rooney was, but when a kid like that comes and just you go, wow, Jesus Christ, he's here already. I think we've just got to embrace it, man. And I just think that the more football that he has, the different types of games that he has. We've seen different clubs in his bag, haven't we, Mark, in terms of that ability to get forward and put that through ball in for Isak. Now we've seen his defensive discipline in Paris. We've seen his goal against Fulham. He can finish. And now, at the weekend, we kind of saw a bit of a mixture of everything. Lovely through ball over the top. I think to Gordon was a little dink ball over. Gordon ran through the pace. And you look at the pace on our side with Gordon, with Barnes, with Isak. Even the headless chicken, fucking Almiron can run. You can't do that with it. But you look at players with pace, and Tino as well, and Lewis Hall if he ever gets out of cryostasis, he could ping a ball, Louis, 25, 30 yards to these guys to run onto and get in behind teams. And, for me, that is a skill that Longstaff, unfortunately, isn't offering right now. Sean is stuck between the devil and deep blue sea. Is he an attacking midfielder? I wouldn't say Lampard, Gerald. He's never going to be that quality. But someone like a Kevin Nolan type, is he that type of midfielder where he wants to get goals? Or is he a box-to-box midfielder like, Joe Linton or Dele Alli in his prime? He doesn't look like he's either, really. At the minute, he doesn't know what he wants to be. So Sean has to decide where he wants to play and then stick to that position. And if he can make that position his own, then great. But for me, Louis Miley can't come out of the team, Mark, when Willock's fit. I'd go Bruno, Willock, and Louis Miley for me as the three midfield.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think an awful lot of the time, Miley and Longstaff are too similar to be in the same side. They want to be slightly forward. They neither really, I don't think, want to sit in that 6 role. Miley's done it very well over the 2 games. I think he showed he can do it, and maybe that is his position in the future. But he looks very adept in being in that sort of gap in between midfield and defence, and those little through balls that he plays. The couple that he's played to Isaac have been absolutely exceptional when he's been on the edge of the box, and he just takes up good positions in that area.
Good comment from Tank about Anderson. Sorry, Anderson's still to come back, isn't he? And if Anderson comes back and gets anywhere near where he was, Tank, before he got injured, that's another great option to have as well. And a very flexible player, Mark, that can go in the front 3 or the midfield as well, isn't it? With Anderson.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing because I think we touched on this last week. If Anderson had been fit, would we even have seen Miley?
Probably not.
We might have been saying exactly the same things we're saying about Miley, but Anderson having that breakthrough period. But I think you're right. As much as there's a clamouring to rest Miley, and I do think he does need time out. He does need the odd game where he's maybe not starting because he needs to be fresh. He needs to be allowed time to recover. And I guess what helps at the moment is it's 1 game a week, so that's not really too much of a demand on him. But he does need some time out. But of the 2 of them, he's in much better form. Yes, Longstaff scored a couple of goals last week with it that really paper over the cracks a little bit. I think generally speaking, Longstaff's been fairly poor. He's still getting into positions sort of forward, but he's not done an awful lot. His shooting does let him down a great deal. His passing isn't the best, although he did play that brilliant ball through to Miggy on Saturday, which I've got to give him a lot of credit for. But generally speaking, of the 2 of them, I'm picking Miley at the moment because I just think he's in far better form.
Yeah, Ty is running for the Dan Burn of the podcast tonight as he's late.
the three of which.
Yeah, better late than never, mate. Better late than never. But so yeah, I suppose moving on, we'll kind of rattle through the rest of them here. We might be on until bloody midnight at this rate. But I think we'll kind of drop the injury returns because we've kind of covered that anyway, mate. So obviously Anderson looks like he's not too far away. Willock and Isaac are very close. We've already talked about whether we'd play them or not. Against Arsenal, me personally, I wouldn't. If they're on the bench, great, it gives you some options. If we can hang in the game, then maybe try and come on and nick it 1-0 or something like that. But the other place to kind of move to, I think, is the story everybody's talking about, the Ashworth saga. So all the journalists are talking about it. Some thick as mince Manchester United podcasters are also talking about it and getting the sums all wrong. But everybody's talking about it, and obviously Dan Ashworth now has officially been put on gardening leave. And the club have talked about it. They said they're disappointed, but it looks like they're being quite hard line with it, Mark. And Ashworth could even be on garden leave for up to 2 years if Man U don't stump up and pay. What is your take on this one, buddy?
If they want him, they've got to pay. And if they're not willing to pay what Newcastle want from him, let him sit on garden leave. I know it's cost an awful lot of money in terms of what his wage will be. But he signed, 6 million that Newcastle paid Brighton for his services, and he sat on gardening leave for 6 months or whatever it was. Let him sit, let him stew, and if if Manchester United aren't willing to pay, then tough. They want him so badly. They have to come in and put the money where their mouth is at this point, and they're not going to get him for peanuts. I think Newcastle are going to play hardball with it. Not as one podcast put today that they're throwing their toys out the pram. Yes, they'll be upset that he wants to go so quickly into this project. But yeah, if you want him so badly, you've got to pay the price. Marcus Overton his gardening leave 1 year. I mean, he's had. As somebody put earlier on, I think his garden must be absolutely immaculate. The amount of time he's had on garden leave, it's ridiculous. Niall, I think I read earlier on something like 1.5 million a year, maybe, if not more than that. It's an extreme amount of money, but it's probably north of that, to be fair. Kevin, he's gone. Yes, he is on his way. I would imagine, even if it's not straight to Manchester United. But I completely agree. If he wants to go, yes, they've got to take an awful lot of the deadwood with him. I think that's a very good point. George, no garden leave, no more 55 million players will get banned. Who gives a fuck? No, I can't disagree there. It's just chuckling at some of these comments, Chris.
Sorry, I'm starting to nip out and just do something quickly there. So
no, that's cool.
I'm back. Yeah, I mean the whole thing with Ashworth really is, I mean, if you look at him, I think I said this in the video that we did, didn't we? Everyone changes jobs for a better package or a different project or whatever it may be. He did come out in November and give a big licks about the project. He looks a bit of a hypocrite now in February that he's fucked off. And, he knows these guys at Man United really well, the guys that have come in. And contrary to what some of these complete fucking moron Manchester United fans are saying on social media, which is completely rancid, by the way, at the minute. Social media is becoming worse and worse. It's a bit like a massive shit in the services that just won't flush. You just decide to get in your car and go piss in a bush somewhere. It stinks that bad.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, imagery. Yeah, good. Sweet dreams to you, mate. But yeah, it's just some of these Man United fans are so fucking off the pace with it. They just don't understand what they don't even know how much of a stake fucking Sir Jim Radcliffe even has in that club. Some of them think he's bought the fucking thing outright. And then he dropped a C-bomb there. I'm not another podcast. We did one the other week, actually, which I caught them out for, but we don't do that. Mark will give me a yellow card about that. Is Dennis Wise still available? I fucking hope not, Ty, because he's a very small man, as Deck would say. Exactly, Kev. But yeah, I mean, the whole Ashworth thing for me is he obviously doesn't want to be here. He's obviously been talking for a while. Technically, they've kind of, it's had a water by a garden, mate. That sounds like a euphemism, that, mate. But yeah, he obviously had his head turned, more money. Whether we like it or not, Man United is a bigger club than us. Whether we like it or not, that is true. They are a bigger club than us commercially. They are a bigger club than us in terms of trophies and everything else. But let them get on with it. Let them enjoy the dumpster fire. These guys, I'm sure, have got somebody else lined up because they wouldn't have put them on garden leave as quick as they did if they didn't, Mark, would they? I think they've got somebody else in the bag.
Well, more than anything, and kind of Marcus hits the nail on the head. I think that's a bit. He's been too short a period, gained a whole lot of intel through the PIF operation, and guaranteed they won't make it. He's absolutely right, and I think that's part of the reason why you get him on garden and leave now. You get him out of the club, you get him away, you revoke his access to all of the kind of the information that you've built up through him. That's not his personal information. You don't give him access to anything now, because if he is going, you take away everything that you possibly can from there. You can't take it with him. So Newcastle have to play hardball. They're absolutely right that they cannot allow somebody to go that's managed to amass whatever information they can from one club so quickly in such a short space of time to go for next to nothing. And it is going to cost them a lot of money. I'd be surprised if it was 20 million. But I would be bleeding them for every penny you can get out of him.
2 words, mate. Jesse Lingard. Remember that one on loan? Was the one 15 million quid? Fuck him. Kev saying interesting. Brighton done better with Ashworth. Maybe the same for us. It's a funny one because I mean everybody saw it was doing the rounds on the socials and everything. Who's that tit on Sky, Mark, the agent that you can't stand? What is he called? The one who lies through his teeth.
Is it Cavastola call?
That's him. He's what a fucking moron. But he turned around, they pulled up this grid, this infographic grid of the Brighton players that he signed and the Newcastle players that he signed. And the players that they put on there, Ashworth had nothing to do with them. Bruno, Botman, Isak, didn't have anything to do with them. Yeah, exactly. It's Joe Linton saying, I know Joe Linton would have his mate Bruno's back. But it's true, though, that he didn't sign these players. And even the young players that we've got now, Minter, he didn't spot Minter either. Steve Nixon spotted him. So, all of this praise that he's getting, I've got no doubt that Dan Ashworth is good at what he does, because so many people wouldn't pick him up if he wasn't, right? But the top and bottom of it is, he's not this fucking footballing Einstein that everybody's giving him credit for. And quite rightly, Kev says there, Brighton have moved on without him. Brighton went and got De Zerbi. Brighton went and got some great young players that they've brought in from all over the world with their scouting network and everything else. We could do the same. I saw a Brighton fan tweet earlier saying Newcastle laughing all the way to the bank like Brighton for getting money for a glorified cheerleader. So that tells me that maybe he's not all that. You know what I mean? But listen, he's not our problem anymore. He doesn't want to be here anymore. Don't let the door hit the arse on the way out, Dan. Off you fuck. We'll get somebody better. Fuck him.
I have nothing to add to that. Absolutely not.
That would have been my exit interview for you as well, Dan. So yeah, fuck you. Don't hit the arse on the way out, son. But right, we'll move on because we've been on for quite a while. So we are Out of Toon now, the last part of the show, where obviously we talk about things non-Newcastle United related. And we actually had quite a quiet Out of Toon lined up. Then it all went a little bit mad, really, didn't it, Mark? It all kind of exploded a little bit. So I suppose the first place we'll start. We're going to start on, I suppose, a serious topic. And a bit of a somber one as well, which is the announcement of Roy Hodgson stepping down at Crystal Palace. Obviously, Roy has not been in the best of health of late, as people have probably seen. I mean, he's no spring chicken, as Roy. He's done a fabulous job at Nottingham Forest and obviously throughout his entire football career. Christ, I remember
Crystal Palace, Chris.
Yeah, what's that, sorry?
Crystal Palace, not Nottingham Forest.
Oh, beg your pardon, Jesus Christ! It's because I'm looking so. I think I got mixed up with Brian Clough there. Sorry, Roy. Crystal Palace, but he's 76 years old. He's been going for fucking ages. I think he managed Jesus' Sunday League team. I think it'd be fair, he's been going that long as Roy. But I remember him managing Blackburn and bloody Inter Milan, didn't he? When he told Roberto Carlos, he wasn't very good. Maybe not one of his greatest hits, but no, I think, to be fair, he does need to retire, as well as some of the guys are saying in the comments there. Ian, yeah, absolutely. He is a proper gent, as well as Decker says. He was always very complimentary about Newcastle as well, was Roy. I think he did a decent job as England manager. I think he got a lot of shit unnecessarily. Thus is the price on the ticket. But your health's more important, Mark, isn't it, than football?
Yeah, look, he's had a ridiculously long career. He's managed across Scandinavia. He's managed internationally. He's managed Liverpool and Crystal Palace and England, and you've just got to. You have to take your hat off to him for a manager to have lasted that long in the game. And the job that he did at Palace was exceptional when he came sort of back in and sorted them out. But his time was, his time had come. It's time to try and just enjoy your last, hopefully 20 odd years or whatever, because you've spent an awful lot of time under such high pressure. Just go and relax now. Just go and enjoy it. Go and watch games just for the sheer enjoyment of it. And
to be fair, responsible for probably the best off-camera clip ever when he told the reporter not to stop taking the piss, which was brilliant, because he went from Roy Hodgson to like a crazed henchman in one shot, didn't he, as well? But yeah, good luck to Roy in retirement. There was another manager who has lost his job. I feel sorry for him because he lost his job. Cindy left him. He lost the calf. Phil Mitchell was meeting him. I'm obviously talking about Michael Beale, as Keith Downey referred to him as on Sky earlier, which was absolutely superb. Yes, the unwashed are looking for a new manager. Ian Beale has gone after just 12 games in charge. I wonder what the feedback is for Michael Beale on this one, Marky. He didn't look like the right man for the job at all, really, did he? We pumped them without breaking sweat. He wouldn't even shake one of his own players' hands when he come off at the weekend. So you kind of knew the writing was on the wall, mate. But not surprising, really, is it?
No, what is it? 6 defeats in those 12 games. He started off badly with a 3-0 defeat at home, and he's just never really improved. And they're a shambles again. Shock. We're so sad. It's just, I mean, it was. I think the writing's on the wall. I don't think their fans ever wanted him. To be fair, they didn't want Mowbray to go in the first place, but they never wanted him. So. Yeah, it's not a massive shock, that one.
So I'm just laughing at the comment there from Marcus saying they want Roy Keane back, lol.
They do.
I can imagine Roy Keane saying, do me a favour. But to be fair, I do quite like Keane. And I think he even said on the overlap that he thinks he's just more interested in the media stuff now. So kind of blame him. Who wants the hassle of being a manager? Fuck now. You know what I mean? It can go from euphoria to fucking destitute in a week or two, can't it really? So why would you bother?
No, he's got it cushy now, hasn't he? You're not gonna, unless you've got a burning desire to get into it quickly, then he's the best place for him. He can earn a fortune doing what he's doing and not have any pressure whatsoever. I know which one I'd rather do.
Well, absolutely. Well, speaking of Sunderland managers and former Sunderland managers, there's another former Sunderland manager who's feeling the heat a little bit at the moment, and that is old Davy Moyes. So regardless of winning West Ham their first trophy in God knows how many years, by winning, what was it again, the PC World Cup or something like that, he won the Europa Conference. A bit like it was the one with the Total Cup that we won, I think, years ago. But no, I want to joke, West Ham fans. It was a European competition. Moyes is under real pressure. Fans have started turning and slipping down the table, losing games. And they're shouting for him out, mate. Yeah,
no, they didn't win quite the Anglo-Italian Cup as it used to be. That would have been probably a good analogy. But they've been awful, absolutely awful. Particularly the last few weeks, they were doing all right. Things look to be going in the right direction. They'd signed some good players, the likes of Ward-Prowse and stuff, but they're just shocking. Absolutely abysmal. They don't look like they know what they're doing. And Moyes looks like Moyes at the end of his tenure again, where the writing is on the wall for him. So I don't think it'll be too long. 1 or 2 more defeats and he's out the door.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it actually. There was a brilliant couple of West Ham clips from the kind of social media podcast. There was one when a fan was getting interviewed outside the ground. I don't know if it was the same West Ham fan channel actually, but if it is, they've got some absolute golden banter. They were talking about Calvin Phillips, obviously a player that we all championed really hard, wanted to sign as our number 6. He's had an absolute stinker at West Ham. Obviously got a red card the other day, and one of the West Ham fans was getting interviewed outside the ground. It's a brilliant clip. And he just, apologies for the crap Cockney accent, but he just says, Calvin Phillips had a fucking mare, mate. He says, he come on, he's fucking made 2 big mistakes. He got a red card, Yorkshire Purlow. He's a fucking Yorkshire pudding, mate. Which I thought was absolutely brilliant, to be fair. And then the second one was even better than that. It was James Ward-Prowse, who they've also turned on. And it was almost like a talk to the lads type thing. I think the two really do something similar. And the guy was talking, and he said, the only way that James Ward-Prowse is going to beat David Beckham's record is if he fucks 2 Spice Girls, which was just slayed me, completely slayed me. So you've got to give it to the West Ham fans, mate, for keeping the sense of humour. That's absolutely superb, is that?
Yeah, in the face of kind of what's going on, if you can maintain that humour, then you've got to take your hat off to them. They're just brilliant. But those 2 lines just phenomenal.
Absolutely superb. Absolutely superb. There is a bit of news as well, actually, about Nottingham Forest. My Freudian slip earlier on as well. A bit of news that Gary Neville's not very happy about either. It's somebody who heralds from this neck of the woods, Mark Clattenburg. I've done him a real favour there by putting the Getty images up of him from about 25 years ago, Mark. So you're welcome there. He's currently the referee on the Gladiators. And he's also taken another job. Which I can't get my head around this really, Mark. I mean, this is a weird thing, isn't it? So basically, he's got a job on the backroom staff of Nottingham Forest to, I think, help them with their relationship, isn't it? The relationship in terms of understanding referees. So he's offering them a kind of referee's insight into why referees make these kind of mistakes. I'm trying to find the exact name of the job. What have they called it here? Let's have a look here. So he's been appointed to, improve understanding and relationships is what his role is. And Gary Neville is taken umbrage to this and said he's not very happy. I mean, he's upsetting everybody in the Midlands. Gambia, Bonglahore, Nottingham Forest. He's just on a run as Gary Neville in the Midlands. Just keep driving through there, guys. Don't stop, mate. Don't stop for a wee. Just head to the Watford Gap, mate. Keep going. But what's your take on this thing? Is this a step too far, like Gary Neville says, for Nottingham Forest? Do you think this is a
weird one, isn't it? I mean, let's be fair. This is a referee who openly admitted that he once gave Manchester United a corner because Roy Keane shouted at him. Because it just, I mean, that kind of tells you what you need to know. He was one of the better referees at one point. I mean, it's a thin sort of market for them, but he did okay for a time. It just seems like an odd appointment, an odd thing to bring them in for. It seems very much like I think Gary Neville said it right. It's a God, woe is me. Things have gone against us a couple of times. So, we need to prove that the world is against us and us alone. Everybody's getting the shocking mistakes from referees. You've only got to look at the weekend. There were penalties all over the place that weren't given. I think when I looked at the weekend, was it Diogo Jota got wrestled to the ground, almost WWE style. Ollie Watkins was taken down by a Fulham player. There was another couple that I was looking at earlier on, and there were some awful refereeing decisions at the weekend, and ones that even VAR got involved at and completely ignored. I think there was one. Actually, it was on. I think Nico Williams for Forest, where the West Ham player stood on his foot and he's obviously gone down. And then there was, I think, Robertson in the back of Ivan Toney. That was a complete charge into the back. So it's not just them that's getting the bad decisions at this way. It just seems like a really odd thing to do as a club. And I again agree with Neville. It's on the owner. This is kind of his whinge, isn't it?
It's weird. I agree with what Luke's saying there. We'll put pressure on the refs if they fuck up against Forest, because I think that Clattenburg is going to be kind of analysing the decisions, really. So it is a very, very strange one. I mean, I don't really understand why he's doing this as well, Mark. And he's obviously retired from refereeing. As I said there, he's on the Gladiators now on BBC, and it can't be that bad, Mark. Surely the Gladiators. I mean, I'm sure I'd rather be looking at this last than Nuno Espirito Santos, mate. I mean, it can't be that bad of a job, lad. Surely. Do you know what I mean?
Which one do you want shouting at you? There we go.
Yeah, exactly. If anyone is obviously listening on audio, I've just pulled up one of the very attractive Gladiators. I was watching actually with the kids. I promise I was watching because the kids want to watch it. Honestly, that's the only reason.
Of course you were.
Not because of this last one. Looks like Sharon Stone, who's went to the gym. I think she's what is she called? Sabre. I think she's called Sabre. I think it's Sabre or something.
I haven't seen it. So.
Yeah, but very attractive ladies on the Gladiators, and I've got no idea why Clattenburg wants to ditch that for the City ground. Yes, I do remember Jet. Who was a teenage lad in the 90s and didn't remember Jet, mate? My word, unbelievable. Yeah, George is saying Sabre. You just click and say Sabre for DOM. I'm up for that, George. I'm up for that as well, mate. Absolutely, mate. What was that? Sorry, Lucas saying, when's the Gladiators on? Did you say? Go check the iPlayer, mate. Go check the iPlayer, buddy, lad. Absolutely class. Absolutely class. But there is one last thing for us to cover in Out of Tune, and to be fair, this is a saga that's been running longer than fucking Star Wars. And it's where will Kylian Mbappe end up next? Now, it looks like at last he might be going to Real Madrid. And this was the reported package that he's agreed to sign. Apparently, Florentino Perez, which says translate in Spanish to utter shithouse, has already told the Real Madrid team that Mbappe signed. He's got Mbappe. And it's a 5-year contract, a salary of 20 million euro a year plus bonuses, 50 million signing on bonus, and a presentation planned at the Santiago Bernabeu. I think I speak for everybody, Mark, when I say just fucking get it done. We can't be asked. We're sick of it.
Yeah, It's one of those where we've kind of all known this is coming. Just get it sorted, get him there, and get it done, and we can all stop talking about it or having it constantly. Oh, where's he going to go? He was never going to go to Liverpool. He was never going to go to Manchester United. He was never going to go to Manchester City or Arsenal. Yet they kept getting linked to him. He was always going to go to one place and one place alone, because realistically, it's the only place that could afford to pay him what he wanted to get, and that was Madrid.
Exactly. That's the only place. To be honest, never has a club and a player deserve each other more in this world than these two. You've got one club who's just ran by shithouses who want to run off and be in the European Super League. This club that anytime they just get anywhere close to going bust, the royal family of Spain just pump more money into them and keep them going, and then they go and sign Jude Bellingham and whoever else they want to sign. So Mbappe and them belong to each other. Just get on with it, and deal with it. And get it off everybody's radar. No one gives a shit, and we'll all be championing Erling Haaland for Ballon d'Or because we think Mbappe's a shithouse. So there we go.
Exactly.
And a great way to end it. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, all the guys in the comments there. We are getting on a little bit, so I'm sure a few have been dropping off and going to bed. But thank you very much. It always helps the episode flow. We love having you guys in the chat. It's you host this as much as we do. We always enjoy having a good chat with you. And as I mentioned at the start, if you are new tonight, just check us out for the first time, or you want to recommend us to any family or friends, just have a bit of a giggle to cheer up this miserable world. Maybe this one wasn't a good idea because we're moaning quite a lot of it. But if they are Newcastle fans, I might appreciate that because the game was shit at the weekend. So yeah, recommend us, smash that subscribe, help get us to 7,000. Like the video too, help it grow evermore. We're still quite babies in terms of the whole YouTube and podcast world, but to reach 6,500, 6,600 already in such a short time is amazing. Thank you so much, Luke. You naughty lad. He's off to watch the Gladiators. Fucking happy night to you, Luke. You enjoy yourself, buddy lad. Just don't tell us what you got up to, mate. Honestly, don't pull a muscle. Stretch off first, mate. Stretch off first. Oh, that's it. Dear. I've gone down the rabbit hole. Oh, my word. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you so much for watching Evermore. We'll be back with some more previews and some rants and thoughts, I'm sure, through the weekend. And obviously, we've got Arsenal at the weekend, which we'll be watching through our fingers, and then FA Cup action the week after. So loads of content. Keep it Evermore, guys. Have a great evening, especially you, Luke, and we'll see you later.
Take care, guys. See you.
Cheers.